Hello and welcome to The Modern Consultant. I'm your host, Mark Aarons, and on today's episode, I have the pleasure of hosting Lisa Fabrega. Lisa has been a leadership coach to 6, 7, and 9-figure entrepreneurs. She's been featured in Oprah Magazine, CNN, and many, many more. In fact, Oprah and Gayle King showed up at her doorstep. We talk about that in today's episode and much, much more. We also talk about her visibility framework as well as her capacity framework that she uses to be able to unlock the inner as well as the outer potential of everyone that she works with. We also talk about boundary setting, reserving our energy and our capacity and approaching business in a holistic way. I have had the pleasure of working with her myself, and I can tell you that this episode is going to be a very, very special one. I hope you enjoyed as much as we enjoyed recording it. And with that, I'll see you on the other side. Lisa, I just want to say welcome to the show. It is an honor to have you. I've just felt it's been a great opportunity to get to know you over these past couple months. And for the folks who are listening in, on one hand, they'll be thinking, how did she go from actress in New York making $50,000 a year to then business coach to 6, 7, and 9-figure entrepreneurs and Oprah and Gayle King showing up at your doorstep? How, what, why? Please tell us more.
Well, my simplest answer to that is that I've always had a very strong inner hunch that I follow. And I have learned through my life that when I don't follow it, things go badly. And when I do follow it, things go well. And I may not know where it's leading me, but I've got to the point where I trust where the hunch leads me. And so the way that I went from being an actor in New York, working at financial firms during the day to pay my bills, because even though I had some good gigs that I booked as an actor, you don't work consistently and you've got to pay bills. And so at the time, I was working at a big financial firm, whose name I will not say, but I kept getting promoted because I was doing very well in my job there. And that was eating into my time that I would be able to go audition. And they started to get more and more resentful that I was leaving to go on these auditions. And so, unfortunately, what ended up happening is that I had a friend who, of course, a guy mowing the lawn comes right by.
You're fine. And just as soon as that happened, I heard my air conditioning cut in. Like it's...
Seriously, right now.
But actually, I couldn't hear it.
Okay, good. So I'll
Yes.
keep going then.
Yeah.
So where I was at the time, I kept getting promoted at my job because I was doing very well. And that was eating into time that I could go through my auditions. And when I had started that job, it was under the conditions that I could leave whenever I needed to go on my auditions. But, as you start getting more and more responsibility, they start wanting you there more. And I realized I had come to this point where something had to give. And at the same time, I had just finished reading Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Work Week during that time. And I had never thought, oh, maybe I could have my own business. Maybe I could have a flexible schedule. Maybe I could, do things differently. And that book kind of opened a door in my mind. And I remember I went to my higher ups and tried to do a presentation about how it would be more cost effective for them if they allowed us to work from home a couple of days a week or even just one day a week. And I showed them all the statistics about how people are more productive and it makes the company more money. And I remember they just looked at me like I had 5 heads. And I had this profound realization. My talents are being wasted here. This is like a dinosaur. And I am so innovative and so creative. This is not the right fit for me to be here. It just so happened that at that time, I ran into a friend on the street who was on Broadway at the time, also a fellow actor at that time. And she told me, oh, I just started this career in coaching and it's great. I can make my own hours. I'm making really good money and I can be on Broadway and it works for me. And I thought, well, why not try that? And I got that hunch And it was terrifying because at the time, I think it was $8,000. And I was an actor and I was making 50 grand a year. So $8,000 was a lot of money for me. But I took the leap, I signed up, and the rest is history. It was actually nutrition coaching. And again, hunches, following those hunches, I started coaching very high-powered executive women on their nutrition. And I started to notice that we would talk about food like 2 or 3 times. And then the whole rest of the conversation was about career challenges, capacity challenges that they were having. And I started to follow the hunches of what the data in my business was trying to show me. And that eventually led to me coaching people on their businesses. So that is how I got here.
There's so many fascinating threads. And I'm making personal discoveries just through hearing your story as well, because before I also got into business coaching, I actually went down the nutrition coaching route as well. Like behind me, I think it's like right up there is actually my nutrition certification from when I got it. And I'd got up to like 20 clients or so and decided not to go down that route. The other interesting thing that stood out to me in what you shared was, had they listened to you with the remote work, they would have been prepared for the pandemic.
Oh, I never thought of that.
Yeah. You were way ahead of your time. And they would.
And you know what's funny? I quit, I think I quit about a month or a few months after. And I quit a month before the market. This was in 2008. So the market went tank a month after I quit. So it's almost like I knew this stuff was coming intuitively. And by the time the market went like this, I already had my own business. So I was able to not feel any financial impact from that. Interesting.
That is incredible. So fast forward, Oprah's at your doorstep. Could you tell us that story?
That's another hunches story. It's like this little, as Taylor Swift would say, the invisible thread. I have loved Oprah since I was 10 years old. She is my life model, just icon for me. And there's so much that I admire about her strength, the things she's overcome, the way she's been innovative in her field, the way she has defied norms, the way she has spoken about taboo topics that nobody dared to talk about on TV at the time. And so I always felt like she was a mirror for me of what was possible. And she was also talking about personal development during a time that was kind of new. So she really is like the pioneer of personal development, in my opinion, at least in the Western Americanized world. And what was fascinating is I had always had her on my vision board every year since I was 10 years old. Okay. I was 43 when Oprah showed up at my door. And 2 years prior, had started to get a hunch again that something was shifting in my business and within me and how I wanted to show up visibly in the world. And I worked with my mentor tirelessly for those 2 years. And we did this extreme excavation work in terms of my branding, my marketing, the messaging that I was focusing on, how I was showing up. And again, it's kind of the stuff that I walk my clients through now, is doing that deep dive into your data, but also combining that with where you're feeling called to go. And I realized that I needed to do a complete overhaul. And one of the things that my mentor at the time said to me, which was such a blessing, was, Lisa, I'm just going to be blunt with you. You're not showing how intelligent you are. And I was like, really? And she was like, you're so smart. And I don't see that anywhere in your branding. All I see is this very like goddessy, like soul business kind of a brand. But like, you're a hell of a strategist. Like, your clients make a ton of money. Like, you're really good at business. And I speak about visibility because part of visibility is how we see ourselves. I just did not see myself that way, even though I was. And as I reflected on what she said to me, I thought, oh my God, you're right. My clients make so much money. And like, we're doing strategies in a very creatively different way than what like all the marketing bros at the time were saying you should do, you know? And they were making all this money, and they were also able to live these very like spacious lives. And I thought, So anyway, this leads to me completely rebranding, completely changing how I was showing up, not being afraid to show up as smart and intelligent and talk about topics that were a little bit more complex than make $100,000 in 1 week or whatever. And during that time, at about the 2-year mark when I completed that shift entirely, little did I know that Oprah had decided that week that she wanted to do another one of those shows where she goes to someone's house and she surprises them. And I don't know how they found me, but I was sitting in my hairdresser's chair getting my hair done, and I'm checking my email, and I get this email from her brand director. And I thought it was spam. I thought it was, a scam.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at it. I was literally about to delete it. But I was like, let me just look at where it's from. And it was a legit email address from Hearst magazine. And I thought, oh, I think it's actually him. And I follow him on Instagram. So I'm like, I think this is Joseph. And he said, we're doing a show. We want to invite certain people who we know are fans of Oprah to ask her and Gayle a good question. Would you be able to hop on the phone today? Here's the funny part. I couldn't. I wasn't going to reschedule my clients. And so I replied and I said, I can't hop on the phone with you today. I'm very busy. I said, I can tomorrow. And I said, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. He loved that I did that. And he was like, yes. So the next day we spoke. And he said to me, I have to tell you, you really impressed me that you were like, I don't have time to talk to you.
Yeah, that's exactly what I heard just now.
He was like, damn, like, who says I don't have time to talk to Oprah?
That's great.
But for me, it's like they're paying clients. I don't want to reschedule them. I mean, I think I would reschedule in certain circumstances, but this wasn't a guaranteed opportunity. So anyway, the point is, we got on the phone the next morning. We got along so great. I found out that he had done all of this in-depth research into me. Combed through stuff on the internet. There's a lot of stuff about me on the internet. And he was like, I really like your branding. Like, I really like what you're about. And again, I was like, thank God. I redid my website 2 years prior and I had gone through that whole process. It was kismet. And this was also 3 days after my birthday. And on my birthday, I had written a list and I had put Oprah on there. So it was like a birthday wish. So anyway, long story short, I'm about to go on to Zoom. I'm sitting in my office thinking I'm going to talk to Oprah and Gayle on Zoom. And I hear someone knocking on my door. And my first reaction was rage because I had told everybody, I'm talking to Oprah on Zoom because I lived in Santa Barbara at the time, half the year. And, it's very close to everybody, super close. Your neighbors stop by, bring you honey from their bees. So I told all my neighbors, like perimeter, like nobody knock on my door. Nobody call me. Put your dogs inside. So there's no dogs barking in the background. It was like that. So everybody knew I was talking to Oprah on Zoom and I hear this knock and I'm like, it's knocking on my door. Before I'm about to talk to Oprah. So I say to the producer on the phone, I am so sorry. I'm just going to quickly run. Tell this person to go away. I'll be right back. I get to the door. I hear someone screaming my name. Now I think some crazy internet stalker has found my home.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, what is happening? I peek through the curtain and Oprah Winfrey and Gayle King are literally right there on my doorstep. And I thought, okay. First of all, I was like, I'm just left my body for 2 seconds. And then I was like, you know what? You have trained for this your entire life. You've always known you're going to be Oprah. Ground yourself and walk out there. Nice. So, and I refused to be one of those people that was going to be like, because I saw the cameras. And I'm like, queen energy, let's go.
Nice. Love it. That's incredible. So many takeaways. One of them being Oprah's team has crazy internet stalking and capabilities to find your place without finding us, so they can show up at your doorstep. That's,
Amazing. I mean, such a
uh,
testament to what a great leader she is.
it is so true, but it also contains within it just this really powerful testimony to your own frameworks around visibility and capacity. And one of the things that I wrote down here is that, one of the quotes that I've heard you share is that it's not your strategy, it's your capacity. Could you tell us more about that?
Yes. This is one of those things that when you've been doing this for as long as I've been doing, which is over 15 years now, you've worked with quite a few people at that point. I think I've calculated roughly, and I stopped counting a few years ago, just based on all the different classes I've taught, the groups I've spoken to. I think I've worked with over 74,000 people at this point in a variety of ways. Not all one-on-one, obviously. But you start to notice patterns, right? And you start to notice common complaints that people are coming to you with and common places where people are getting stuck, especially people who feel called to great visibility and great impact in the world. And I started to realize that the problem that we have in the business world, whether it's the online marketing world or it's literally in the corporate world, because I do a lot of corporate consulting too, is that we get really hung up on what's the strategy to get me there, right? I'm going to implement this new funnel. I'm going to put this new system into my team. We want to get to this next level of revenue. What do we need to do, strategy wise to make that happen? But we rarely stop to think about, wait a minute. It makes sense, right? Why would I implement a strategy that's going to bring in, let's say, $1 million in new business without thinking about whether I and my team have the capacity to handle $1 million in business?
Yes.
And I don't just mean structurally, right? Like you want to make sure you've got the team that can deliver upon $1 million in business. You want to make sure that all of that stuff is taken care of. That's more strategic. I'm talking internally as a leader. I had a client a long time ago. Unfortunately, she came to me after this happened, which sometimes I'm like, why did you wait? You should have come to me sooner. But she had a business that was making around $300,000 a year. And she happened to hit it. She got lucky. She had a niche that was really in demand. And she blew from 300,000 to $1 million in like 3 months.
Wow.
That is a huge leap to make in your business. The difference between a $300,000 business, being the CEO of a $300K business, and $1 million business is a huge thing. And it usually takes years. So you build the internal capacity as a leader to deal with like team issues that come up when you're at $1 million, to deal with profitability challenges. She didn't get that because she went like this to $1 million. And she started having major anxiety attacks. She went through 3 teams. 3 entire teams quit on her because she was such a mess that it was horrible to work for. Like, she was honest. She's like, I know I'm a mess. I know I'm not fun to work for. And she ended up getting a divorce.
Oh, wow.
Because like her anxiety was just, she couldn't focus on her marriage. It was just bad. And so the point is, what's the point of having these amazing strategies if you are not equipped with the capacity to handle what the strategies are going to bring you?
Yeah. The metaphorical dam broke is what I heard. In that. Yeah.
Yes. And then the last thing I'll say about that is another side of that coin is that sometimes we get an amazing strategy, but we start sabotaging it because deep down inside, we know we haven't set ourselves up structurally to handle what the strategy is going to bring us. So those are the 2 ways where I see people obsessing over tweaking their strategies, and then they're wondering why the strategies aren't working, and it's because they haven't also addressed their capacity.
That's so insightful. It resonates with me. I've seen it with my clients. I've seen it in myself. And It's incredible just how much when we do the inner work, it allows us to be able to better handle the outer work and the impact that we want to have on the world. How does your capacity framework then tie into the visibility framework? What is that? And could you tell us more?
Well, when I was doing my data dive, I realized that there tend to be 6 areas of capacity that leaders tend to hit walls with. So one of them is money, right? Our financial capacity, who I am as a $1 million business owner, and how I see myself as a $1 million business owner and how I show up as a $1 million business owner is very different than how I show up at 10 million, right? And if I'm not able to handle all the money that's coming in a way that is setting the business up for success, that keeps us profitable, and I'm just used to a certain financial threshold, so I spend it all, or I mismanage it, or it feels like too much pressure to be making that money, I'm going to start making bad decisions for the business. So that's money capacity. Then we have visibility capacity, which is really the one I hone in on the most, and I think is the source of everything else, which is allowing yourself to be fully seen in your work, in your leadership, right? And so a lot of times I find working with leaders that they hide certain parts of themselves because they're afraid of being judged, because we're so steeped in respectability politics, which is a term that was coined by an activist. Her last name was Higginbotham. And she talks about, this is sort of like how minority groups or groups of people on the margins tend to restrict and police themselves through certain ideas of what you should be like in Western society versus understanding that it's your diversity that you bring to the table that enriches our society. And so a lot of leaders have this idea that you have to look perfect and you have to look like you know everything. And we put that pressure on ourselves and we start suppressing things about ourselves that actually could make our branding quite unique and incredible, and that could make our contribution to the world that much more impactful. And it also has to do with how we see ourselves. So visibility applies to how I see myself. If I see myself as not a CEO, how do you think I'm going to behave? Like not a CEO.
Yeah.
And then there's a couple others like purpose. A lot of people are building businesses because they make money, but not because it's aligned with their purpose. And then they wonder why the business gets stuck at a certain level. Structural capacity, issues with your team. What are the foundations your business has been built on? If I'm saying I want to build a $10 million business, but I've got the foundation of a $300,000 business, that's going to be rough. That's going to be really rough. I'm going to get burned out and I'm going to quit and it's never going to get to 10 million. And then we have boundaries. Boundary capacity is a huge one. Boundaries is, I say next to visibility is the second one that I work with the most. Our boundaries have to evolve and shift as we grow. We have to get better at saying no to things. We have to become much more selective about who we allow around us, because all those little energy leaks can really impact the quality of the decisions we make as business owners and our growth. If growth to me starts to mean more and more people latching onto me and wanting things from me, I don't want growth. I'm going to start to subconsciously sabotage my growth because it just means more people needing more things from me. And then embodiment capacity, that's the last capacity. And embodiment is literally how you allow the things that come at you to impact you. And that goes hand in hand with boundaries, because if I am like a sponge and I'm just letting the way someone behaves in a negotiation impact me emotionally and throw me off for days, or if a mean comment comes in on one of my ads and I let that impact how I'm showing up for the next few weeks, that's slowing down my business. That's slowing down the impact I'm here to make. And over time, people really underestimate this, Mark. It's the last thing they think about. Over time, those little energy leaks and those little ways that you let all these little things impact you and cause an emotional reaction within you, it really starts to drain you and burn you out. And then you never get to where you want to go. So those are the 6 main capacities. And then I hone in a lot on visibility, because to me, everything comes back to your visibility at the end.
lots to dive into there that I quite like. And my own experience of you embodying not just your marketing, but also visibility. I was following you on Instagram, I think, for like a year before we had done any kind of work together. And I literally saw you do it, the owning of all the different parts of yourself, from business to neurodivergence and just all the things in between. And there was authenticity, but not the fake, like vulnerability and like weaponized vulnerability that a bunch of people and stuff do, which is a whole other, I could go on a deep tangent on that piece, because it's ultimately just manipulation is what it boils down to. And then zooming in now on visibility, I believe you have 6 different areas that you talk about within the visibility framework. Could you share those with us?
Yes. I have so many frameworks.
Frameworks and frameworks and frameworks. I like it.
Because, you just start, I'm a pattern recognizer, and I start to put things into categories. And it helps because once you have a framework, you kind of know where to go to solve a problem versus kind of reaching out of the thin air to fix something. Well, the reason I honed in on visibility is, again, data and research. I started noticing that over the last 15 years, people, the number one word on applications to work with me is visibility. Visibility, visibility, visibility. And I believe that every problem in your business, or I've come to believe, boils down to issues with visibility. Team issues, issues with visibility, issues with how you're showing up, how you see yourself. Do you see yourself as capable of leading that team? Sales issues, visibility. There's a disconnect in how you're selling, where I'm not getting to see you, and therefore I'm not connecting with you, and I'm not building trust with you, and I don't want to buy this thing from you. I could go on and on, but everything comes back to visibility. And the way that visibility particularly shows up for a lot of leaders is that we start, like I said before, we start to hold back, allowing ourselves to be seen. And that is what makes us magnetic to people, is all of these interesting little facets that make us who we are. Now, I'm not saying you have to put your whole life out there, because you have a right to keep certain things private to yourself, and there's nothing inauthentic about that. You don't owe anybody anything for them to see just everything they want about you. But I started to notice that with visibility, people were feeling like, I feel like I'm a best kept secret, or I feel like I should be in more press interviews, or I should be doing this, but it's not happening, or I'm sabotaging speaking opportunities. And it's partially, and here's where the strategy and the capacity comes into play. It's partially because, yes, of course, we have survival fears around visibility, right? In our brainstem, what some people call the reptilian brain, we have old memories of being nomadic tribes. And how do nomadic tribes survive? By depending on each other. So if you got cast out of your tribe when we were early humans, you would die because one person did the hunting and gathering, the other person tended to the fire, the other person did this, and everybody didn't know how to do everything. It wasn't hyper-independent culture like we are now. And so there's this fear of death, literally, if we get rejected for being seen for who we really are and being imperfect and being multifaceted. And so, yes, there is that fear there. What will people think of me? Will people judge me? Will I get mean comments? Blah, blah, blah. But honestly, because I'm also very pragmatic, one of the things that literally is like a hack and a shortcut to bypassing that is having clarity on how you want to show up. And the 6 areas of clarity in a business are what I call the 6 visibility levers, right? So we've got your amplification strategy. If more visibility and growing my business is starting to feel exhausting and draining, it might be that I am doing the wrong amplification strategies, meaning I'm showing up in the wrong places. I feel like I have to show up on Instagram and Facebook, but my clients are on LinkedIn, but yet I keep wasting all this energy showing up on Instagram and Facebook, for example. Or for me, it was, I did 2 years of nonstop podcast interviews, and I got like hardly any clients from it. And yet it was taking up so much time in my calendar that I could have used towards sales. So I cut that amplification strategy out. It was a waste of time and energy. And suddenly I didn't feel so burned out with my visibility anymore, right? Then we have amplification strategy. Then we have messaging and positioning. So messaging and positioning, we all know what that is. Positioning is what makes you stand out from everybody else around you. Messaging is how you literally communicate about what you do to your ideal client. And a lot of times, again, when we're holding back on being visible or it feels draining to be more visible, it's because our messaging is not quite dialed in to our ideal client. And so it's so much harder to make sales. We feel like we have to work twice as hard just to get people in through the door because we're not positioned well and our messaging is not dialed in. Then we have offers, what I call business model, which is your offers and your audience. Again, a lot of times, I just had a conversation with a client about this. Visibility and growing your business starts to feel draining because your offers are not dialed in to the audience you actually want to work with, or you don't know your audience. And so it's much harder to sell an offer that doesn't fit the needs of your ideal audience. And so what do you end up doing? You end up creating an offer that is what's fun for you, but your audience doesn't want it. So it's harder to fill it, and you waste all that time and resources trying to sell a thing that no one wants to buy. Or you end up with an offer that causes you to over-deliver, and you're drained and exhausted and burned out. And again, so those are those three. And then we have pricing and sales methodology. To summarize that, pricing, getting paid is an energy exchange. If the energy exchange is off, who gets drained, right? The person that's not receiving equal energy exchange. And that's how I view money in business. It's an energy exchange. I've given you a certain percentage of my energy, and I expect to be paid equally with the same amount of energy. And that reflects in your price. And a lot of people don't price properly, and they end up over-delivering and not getting the same energy in return. And then they wonder why it feels so draining to run their business over the long term because they're not getting paid enough. Or they're overpriced. And so people are not, the kind of people that are saying yes to those offers are not the aligned people. Or they're not selling to their audience in the way that they want to be sold to. I started discovering that my audience was burned out on sales calls. And so nobody wanted to get on sales calls with me. Instead of pushing to keep doing sales calls, I started doing DM sales with people. I started doing Boxer sales with people. And suddenly a whole bunch of sales opened up because I have introverts in my audience that don't want to get on a call and be pressured, right? It allows people to have the space to think and make rapid decisions. So that's another one of the levers. And then I think that's 5. Did I say all 5? And then the last one is focus and energy. And team as well. I missed one. Your focus and your energy, again, one of those things that everybody ignores, that everybody thinks I'll deal with that later. But where you are putting your focus and your energy as a CEO hugely impacts your visibility. If you are concerned with what your competition is doing and even giving 20% of your energy on the daily to your competition, that is 20% of energy that you have now lost and drained to something that does not benefit your business at all. Because who cares what the competition is doing? Who cares how many people liked your post? I'd rather you use the frustration you felt over 3 people liking your post. I'd rather you use that energy to go make another sale. And then you won't be drained by running your business. And then the last visibility lever is our teams. I always say, if you don't have the right team in place, visibility is going to crush you. It is going to crush you. And the places where we struggle with our teams as we grow our businesses that burn us out is, number 1, we are not showing up as the kind of leader that's going to be able to lead the kind of team we want to that level of visibility and profitability in our businesses. And number 2, we hire the wrong people because we see ourselves as the old self. And so we're hiring people that are continuously reaffirming the old self and old patterns. And that is not going to be what takes your business to the next level. You got to step into the new self, and you got to hire people that meet you at that level. So those are the 6 visibility levers. And they're truly, like, if you listen to them, they're the foundations of a successful business, but they tend to be the areas where we start to drain energy and feel like, I don't know if I want more visibility because all this stuff feels so hard for me. And is it even worth it?
That is excellent. And it makes me think of 3 things. The first is around visibility itself. One of the reasons that gave me the signal that I was like, oh, I need to talk to Lisa, was I had an opportunity coming up where I was going to be featured to an audience of 300,000 people. And I hadn't been featured to that size of an audience all at once before. And I was like, oh, if Lisa can handle Oprah showing up, I think she can help. It was the first thing that popped into my head. And then when we got into it, we started to talk about positioning. And what you said was exactly what I was experiencing at the time, where I was like, oh, I'm about to have this feature, but my current positioning does not match even what the current offers are. You know, my philosophy on business, life, all of the things, and did work to make sure that that was ready. And that has been serving dividends ever since. And then the third thing that it makes me think of is business models and the offers being a fit for the audience. You know, as you've heard me say many times that I share with my clients, the most talented neurosurgeon can't operate on their own brain. And I needed someone who could see my mind to help me unlock and find the pieces that it was just hard for me to be able to see. And one of the outcomes of that was making what felt like a difficult decision at the time to focus on the people who could receive the most value from the skills and capabilities that I would bring to the table. And that led to, you know, contract valued at, you know, 100K. And the other update is that another one of those recently started, like the potential is there for it being like well beyond that. And so,
I knew
yeah.
I was going to get this update.
And it's led to other great opportunities as well, because one of these standard structures moving forward is, you know, service fee in addition to a share of profits that are generated for the business, because that's just how much of a contribution that, you know, I'm bringing to the table, and people know that they can rely on me. I'm not going to disappear because we have a vested interest in each other, and it's just been one aligned with values, and so it doesn't feel like there's any resistance internally, and it has allowed me to show up more for clients and feel excited to do it as well, which has been a really nice shift as well.
Yeah. So you see, like, it starts with you shifting, you getting clarity on it. That's how it started. You getting clarity, because we started with messaging and positioning, I remember, right? Getting clarity on who you're speaking to and who the audience is. And then it went to getting clarity on the business model and what is the offer actually. That gives us confidence to then go, you know what? I'm going to ask for this. I'm going to show up like this. I remember one thing you said to me, which was really impactful, is I actually now, because we looked at the data, I feel confident in charging this because I know I can deliver this, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's not just an empty promise.
Mm-hmm.
That shifts how you energetically show up to that conversation about that sale, right?
Absolutely.
You show up with a level of confidence, and that other person now goes, you know what? You know exactly how to talk to me. Your messaging is on point, so I feel like you're speaking to me, and you are showing up with this level of confidence that you know what you can deliver to me. It instantly makes me want to hire you and trust that you're the person that's going to take me there. So, and notice, like, I don't know if you want to share that, but
Yeah,
didn't it feel so much more effortless to make those sales than other sales you've tried to make before?
Yes, it really, and thanks for that reflection. It's it's very true, because once I detailed out the 9 steps that we're using to create all client results through the end of 2024, and then for every single one of the steps, I checked our records to see if we had case studies for being able to deliver the result at every single one of those steps. And the answer was almost. And by the time it was going to be time to publish that new roadmap, I would have completed a project to then have all of it. And then that's where, because I know you saw this post that I made on LinkedIn where it's like, okay, in 1 week, 100K plus in revenue for those clients. And that was like the last case study that then filled in like the greater like 9 steps. And then it was like, oh yeah, okay, great. We are off to the races. And to your point, when I get into potential client calls now, discovery calls, everything, it's just, here's who we help, how we do it. Here's the data. Here's who we know is a great fit. Do you fit in? Are we aligned on values? Does it make sense for us to move forward together? And it just very much allows people to self-select out or say, you know what, I love this. Not right now, but give me 6 months or give me 9 months, 12 months. Or for the person who is ready, sometimes they pitch me where I get on a call and someone's just like, hey, what have you been up to? I'm like, yeah, here are these 9 steps. This is what we're doing. And they're like, can I work with you? I was like, I just was catching up with you. Okay, cool. All right, let's have that conversation. So it's been great.
And that's like, to me, I'm all about like elegant, simple solutions versus highly complicated strategies that, yeah, you might make like revenue wise, the number might look really good, but what is the energetic cost to sustaining that model, right? I'd rather you hone in on the thing that is your strength, the thing that gives you the most energy, because over time, much bigger deals are struck that way. And you aren't burned out in 3 years from trying to keep up this extremely complicated, multifaceted strategy. Because truly, in the end, as long as you are CEO of your business, and even as a founder, because I've worked with a lot of people making the transition from CEO to founder, you are kind of the heart and soul and the engine of that business until you decide to exit, right? And even then, even when you exit, your heart and soul remains there. The energy from which you started that company remains there. So we have to think about that. Like, we need to think about longevity. And as CEOs, we often get stuck in short-term thinking because we're just thinking about what's right in front of us. We've got to think about, is everything I'm implementing a simple, elegant, highly profitable, not just financially, but energetically solution?
That just actually reminded me of another update for you. What's been happening actually with just doing things in an effortlessly energetic way, amplification. And a lot of the posts that I've been making on Threads and LinkedIn are written from my phone while I'm sitting in my car right before I walk into the gym to go exercise. I don't have the whole studio and and everything. It's just, okay, I've got like 5 minutes. This is what I have to say about this because I need to go get this workout in because that's what I'm here to do. And no stress. And then I literally release it. And then I'm off to do my workout. I come out and maybe later on in the day, I'm like, oh, people are reacting to this. Oh, there are messages. Because I release any attachment to the outcome whatsoever. And it just feels right because I also know that for me, it's actually part of a bigger strategy. This is the first draft of my 2024 content calendar. I'm just getting the ideas out and then I'm going to go back and then decide what we're going to expand into longer messaging and everything as well. So that is the other update that I had for you. There's something else that there's just maybe 2 or 3 more questions I have for you because I also want to be very respectful of your time. You've been very generous. Money, or rather being paid, is an energetic exchange. I've heard you say this. Could you share more about that?
Yeah. How do I put this into, okay, I'll just speak personally. So when I think about, for example, my one-on-one work, the one-on-one work I do is highly paid. And why? Because I know myself very well. When I work with people one-on-one, I'm all in on that person. And you're not just paying me for me to show up for 2 sessions a month. I'm literally like, I was on my bike ride. I do a bike ride almost every morning, and it's my meditation time. And I was on my bike this morning, and I was literally thinking about one client's problem that we were talking about, and I was solving it and thinking of it from all different angles while I was on the bike. That's time I'm using in my body and my brain and my heart for that client. I should be compensated for that time. And a lot of people, they don't think about that. They think, I'm just getting paid per session. That makes you a commodity. You're not a commodity. You're not a tube of toothpaste. You're not a tube of toothpaste where we're competing to see who has 10 cents off at Walmart. You are a brain and heart, and you're a service. You are so much more than a service. I mean, you're much bigger than that. And the point is, if I was only charging for the sessions you show up for, that doesn't account for the loyalty, the level of heart that I put into you. The way I had a client yesterday who closed a $6.5 million deal. We've been working together one-on-one. And I sent her, and she was like, oh my God, it's because the work we've been doing, they saw me as this powerful leader in all the negotiations, and they wanted me as the lead on this project. And I said, and I responded to her, exactly, like, this is exactly it. Like, this is who you are. Do you see that this is who you are? She wouldn't see herself that way. And there is an energetic exchange that happens there. When you have a mentor that knows exactly how to gas you up, right? When you have a mentor that believes in you like that, when you don't believe in yourself, there are exchanges I've had with my mentors. When Oprah came to my door, I obviously had a confidentiality, so I couldn't say anything until it was released. But I did have one person I told, and it was my mentor, called my mentor. And she literally ran out of her hair appointment and called me on the phone. And she was like, she gassed me up so bad. She was like, you deserve this. This didn't happen to you. You made this happen. I've seen you work the hardest I've ever seen anybody work. That level of someone believing in you is infinitely more valuable than you giving me a good marketing strategy on the phone. Because I can Google marketing strategy. It's the energy and the belief that someone puts into you that really is what carries you over the line. We all need people that gas us up and believe in us like that. So those things to me are more valuable than the business strategies I give my clients when I'm on the phone in our sessions. And I know the magic and the medicine that I bring to my clients, and I believe I should be compensated for that. I know that when I hold you in my mind as being on the cover of freaking Fortune magazine, I know it's going to happen because I'm holding you there, right? And it's your job to rise up. That should be compensated. And if I was only charging for the sessions that I'm getting on and not the thinking time, solving problems for you in my mind when I'm on my bike, the ways I am literally holding a space for you, no nonsense. We're not doing that BS. We're here. You are here. I don't want to hear about the small self that you're in. I'm only holding you in your highest self. I'm only holding you at the $10 million level, not at the $1 million level you're at right now. Those things are also as valuable as whatever we talk about on a phone call. And if I was only getting paid for my time on the phone, I would become resentful. I would feel like I am not being appreciated. I would stop wanting to show up that way for my clients. And I am not a person that likes to half-ass things. I put my whole heart into things. And I want to have the bandwidth to be able to put my whole heart into my clients. And so I charge accordingly. And that's what I mean by an energy exchange. If all you're paying me for with the money that you're giving me is for sessions, then I'm only going to show up for sessions.
Yep.
I don't want to show up that way. That's not how I like to show up. So therefore, the energy exchange that's required for you to have all of my magic and medicine focused on you, that's different than sessions. If I didn't do that, that resentment, that I'm just going to suppress the amount of heart I want to put into you because I'm not getting paid enough, right? Or if I was putting that amount of heart and I wasn't getting paid enough, who's going to have a business in 5 years? Not me, because we can't live off that level of resentment. Part of the fuel that we get is being properly compensated through appreciation, through validation that our work is valuable to that person. And a lot of that is reflected in the price, in the money exchange.
I wholeheartedly relate. I do the same in the gym. I'm problem solving while moving. Some of my best problem solving happens when I'm moving. And there are conversations that I sometimes have on podcast interviews like this one where it then sparks an idea for one of my one-on-one clients, or group clients or whomever. And I'm like, oh, I need to record a voice note for them real quick, and same thing will happen. I've woken up in the middle of the night last night and sent a message. It's like, oh, this is fresh. It's going to disappear. If I don't do this right now, it's gone. And this can architect revenue for months to come. We need this idea. They need this idea. And I'm going to get it out there. And then same thing, even with conversations that I have with friends, who are consultants, business and everything. And then it sparks another idea. Ooh, that needs to be a voice note. Send it. And I can look in Slack right now. I have an all caps thank you from one of those voice notes just yesterday.
And who gets paid for that time? You should get paid for that time. You could have been using, that's your intellectual property. That's your brain that you were using for that person. You could have been using that to think about yourself. You could have been using that to watch another 5 minutes of that TV show you like, but you used it for the client. And I believe you should be paid for that.
And
showing value to yourself too.
Agreed. 1000%. There's, I feel like we could just continue this conversation, but I just have two more questions for you. It's probably actually three.
Okay.
If you were stuck on a desert island with one dessert for 1 week, which dessert would you pick and why?
Watermelon.
That's a great choice. That's tasty and practical all at the same time.
It's electrolytes, it's got sugar, it's hydrating, and I freaking love watermelons so much. I eat a whole watermelon every week.
That's amazing. And very hydrating. That's
great. Now, I prefer fruit to sugary things. I'm not a super sugar person, but I just love watermelon. It has it's so valuable in so many ways, and it's sweet, and it's got good energy in it, that because of all the water that it has. So yeah,
just literally and metaphorically. The next question: if you had to choose oatmeal raisin cookie or chocolate chip cookie, which one? Why?
Okay, I'm going to cheat and I'm going to say oatmeal chocolate chip is the best. But
so there's just maybe I think only one other guest who said the oatmeal chocolate chip, and I didn't even know that was a thing. I went to the store and I was like, oh, this is real. My world has changed. So I might have to start throwing that one in the mix. And the final question is, if you could go back to Lisa, the actor, knowing everything you know now, what advice would you give yourself?
I would say trust yourself infinitely. And I would say be very careful about who you bring into your inner circle.
Hmm. I really like that because it's in both ends of the spectrum. It's the what to move towards and then also protection.
Yes.
Um, yeah.
I was listening to the Britney Spears book on my bike ride this morning, and I'm going to write a blog post about this. Um, the only thing I keep thinking when I hear her story is, where were your people? She did not have the right people around her. And that's the importance. That's what I mean. Like, be careful about who you keep around you. Because as we grow, as we get more visible, we have people that are going to be always like slightly nagging us, and we don't realize it.
Yeah.
Or we have people who are going to gas us up. And we also don't want people that are just always gassing us up and not calling us out either, right? And so I think it's one of the most underestimated things for leaders. And I teach it in the CEO ecosystem, which is something I teach in my mastermind and to my one-on-one clients. The people you surround yourself with is going to make or break your success. There's a reason why Oprah only has three people in her inner circle: Stedman, Maria Shriver, and Gayle.
That is grounding. Thank you for sharing all of you. Where can we find out more about you?
Well, if you just type in my name, you'll find me on all the platforms. I'm Lisa Fabrega, Fabrega. And I am on Instagram. I'm very active on Instagram. I'm on TikTok. My website is lisafabrega.com. I'm on Facebook. I'm on X. I'm on everything. But my preferred places to hang out are Instagram and TikTok. And of course, you can go to my website.
Love it. Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. Great question.
Hey, thanks for checking out the show. If you liked it, go ahead and hit the like button and also subscribe so you don't miss another one. It also tells us which ones that you like the most so that we can then do more interviews like that. If you want to go from idea to implementation though, especially if you're wanting to productize your expertise so that you can scale your impact on your clients and of course grow your business, then join our email list. There we're going to talk about how modern consultants can productize their expertise so that they can have a greater impact on the world around them and live life on their terms. If that's up your alley, I hope to see you on the other side. Talk soon.